This is going to be a continuation of my Avatar Hot Takes series that I started as shorts. So this is going to be the first long form video, and if you guys like this, then honestly send me more hot takes / unpopular opinions and I'll react to them. It's not hot takes though, you're just wrong. I think they're confused. This isn't going to be my hot takes. I'm going to be judging your guys' comments and get some payback, some much needed payback. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to be fair, okay? But I'm going to be judging your opinions. Michael Carlton sent me a bunch of them. So thank you, Michael, for all of the content. Mei and Zuko actually work really well together. Nightmare and Daydreams shows what they are like in private. Also, probably Zuko's way of making Mei have a good memory of him before he betrays the Fire Nation. Yeah, I have always really liked Mei and Zuko. Like, people who've watched this channel know that they're one of my favorite couples in the show. Yeah, I always felt like that episode, Nightmares and Daydreams, one of my least favorite episodes, but the one good part of it is Zuko. That's the only reason to even watch the episode. Good take, not unpopular. Legend of Korra should have shown modern advancements outside of Republic City besides transportation. I feel like Legend of Korra got a little crazy with the inventions though. At the end of it, there were a bunch of there were mech suits and energy beam weapons. There was a lot of stuff that I was oh, this is a lot for Avatar. But I can definitely see bending going in completely different directions, especially when you start to take into modern advancements in science and medicine and stuff like that. I feel like there could be a lot of potential uses for even metal bending, right? I feel like metal bending could be used in a medical situation. I don't know. It just seems like there could be a lot of more practical use of it. So yes, Korrasami doesn't work due to not having any real development. Makorasami, a poly relationship, would work much better since all three characters love each other mutually. Okay, if Korra and Asami doesn't work, then I don't understand how Korrasami and Mako would work. I mean, it's not that I'm against that as a concept, it just... And could you imagine how many people would react if it was a poly relationship? They already hated Korra because it was two women, right? Azula's breakdown makes perfect sense since she is a known perfectionist who rules with fear. Once her friends betray her, everything around her begins to fall apart, leaving her with no one to praise her like she is used to. The comics delve a bit into her psyche as well. I mean, is it the most realistic? Probably not. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. But yeah, I feel like it makes sense for the character. It's but it's also sad. It's a sad ending for her. So I feel like that's maybe people's problem with it, is that it feels like it all happened and there was no real closure to it, especially because Azula was such a prominent character, and Mei and Ty Lee ended up having a different path, so it just felt ooh, this is a little sad. Okay, Brian Haynes says, we need to make the popular fan fiction canon into TV shows. Legend of Genji needs a show, and Nick should pay for it. I think the problem is that they can actually just take Legend of Genji and anything in it and just claim it, because that's technically their copyright, so they can just do whatever they want with it. What we saw with Avatar Studios basically stealing the work of Kachi95, who is a pretty prominent fan artist in the Avatar community, and yeah, that was really scummy and gross. So I hope that they kind of keep their hands off of it and don't just take it without crediting. If they're gonna do that, then they gotta credit, we read these fan fictions and we really like this idea. Some people give Mei way more hate than she deserves. She isn't emotionless or whatever, she is just bad at expressing herself and scared to care about things because of her upbringing and her controlling and uptight family. I don't know how much Mei hate there is really. Is that a thing? I don't know if that's a thing, but yeah, I think people maybe hate her more because she broke up with Zuko in the comics, and so they feel which, I mean, I felt like it was a little forced, if I'm gonna be honest. The comic books never really, I don't know, that's my hot take, is I don't know if the comics are really it to me. I like Legend of Korra more than a lot of the comics, what they ended up doing. But yes, I think I like Mei. I mean, I personally think that she's a pretty cool character. I don't know if she's hated, but I think maybe she's underappreciated, underrated. She didn't really have chi blocking or anything. I mean, if you think about it, she just incapacitated benders with knives, and that's pretty impressive. And look at what she did in the Boiling Rock. There would have been no anything if Mei did not set Zuko and all of the prisoners free, basically. I mean, they would have been screwed. So she's kind of one of the more crucial characters, right? Okay, Jim Batter says Mako is a bad boyfriend but not a bad person, and we need to lay off him if we can forgive pretty much everyone else, including Iroh and Ursa, for never even trying to redirect Azula. Ooh, this is a hot take, and I actually agree with this. I do think that Mako, I don't think he's a bad person at all. I think Mako's one of the best, like a good, actually like a really good person, you know, but overall I don't think Mako is like a bad person, like, and especially in like the finale of The Legend of Korra, like he literally sacrifices himself, and like, you know, and that's pretty big. So I would agree with this. The fan base over bashes Katara. I think part of the reason why people don't like Katara is that she often does have conflicts with major characters. Sokka in book 1, you know, Katara is kind of always judgmental of him in some ways, and then obviously you have like the conflict with Toph, and then Zuko later on in book 3. It takes Zuko like earning her trust. But to me, I love Katara. Like, I think Katara is one of the better characters in Avatar in general. Like, I've always really liked Katara. I think that Katara is very underrated too. Mr. Lemon says, hot take, Legend of Korra was worthless and ruined the world's lore. I don't think you guys understand what a hot take or what a unpopular opinion is. This is not unpopular in any way. Like, I see this opinion all the time, that people hate Legend of Korra and they think it ruins everything in that the previous show built up. Like, I hear this all the time, so this is not necessarily unpopular. I'll just say that. And also, you know, I kind of wish it was unpopular because I like Legend of Korra. I don't think it was worthless. This is from Adam Ben Saidi. My hot take, Azula's mental collapse at the end of book 3 is not very well written because we don't spend enough time in her mind. It's like the last time we saw her, she was fine, and then she goes absolute crazy. Yeah, you know, again, I don't think that it's like necessarily like the best depiction of what someone in mental decline, you know, looks like. But I think it was satisfying in some way because it was like we finally got to see Azula, who is this character who is perfect, who never had like a moment where she was weak or that she was lost really, and this was that moment that she finally, everything crashed down, and so that felt kind of satisfying in that way, right? And I would argue that there was a little bit of that. Like, I feel like when she returns after the Boiling Rock, in the episode, I think at the beginning of the Southern Raiders episode, I believe, at the very beginning of that episode, like, she's like literally going to kill Zuko, and like it just feels a little more unstable in that episode. Quartz Rules says book 1 of Korra is fine, but book 2 shoots stakes into the outer atmosphere and kind of nukes book 3 and 4 before they even happened. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of problems with book number 2. I would say that probably one of the bigger problems is that the stakes feel super high, but also like not high in any way. It gets to the point where it's almost like they're fighting for what? Like, what is going on? Like, I don't even understand. Like, it becomes hard to even follow, which I think is to its detriment, because I think it could be super interesting to do like a Dark Avatar storyline, but again, they didn't have like the knowledge of, oh, there's gonna be a book 3 and a book 4. Like, they might have thought that this was gonna be the last Legend of Korra thing. Yeah, I'll say I agree. I do think that out of book 2 came a lot of really important setup for book 3 and book 4, so it's not a total loss. Felix C says Azula should have killed Ozai in order to become the Fire Lord. It would have been ironic, since that's how Ozai became Fire Lord too. Yeah, I don't know. I think that they were building up to Ozai this whole time. Like, I think Ozai worked in that way because they were building it up. Should she have killed him? Like, I don't know. That's her father. That's really, at that point, that's her only source of any kind of validation, right? So I don't think it would really even be in character for Azula to do that. But it seems a lot like Azula's goals are just Ozai's goals, like, for Azula. Preston Roshk says, Fire Lord Ozai is a boring villain, Zhao is underrated. Yeah, okay, again, I think Fire Lord Ozai works better as like a main villain, kind of, because he's just the final boss. Like, that's kind of how I feel like Ozai is. But yeah, I think Zhao is underrated. I love Zhao, like in the first season. I think that there's so many like awesome moments between Zhao and Zuko. I mean, it's hard to compare, like, especially because Azula is like the next villain and she obviously is like beloved, but Zhao, I think, set a really good precedent for like the kind of dynamics between the main antagonist at that point, which is Zuko, right, and then having this kind of side antagonist that is not only working against Aang but is also working against Zuko. So then Zuko is kind of is kind of a secondary protagonist in that way. Kenny P says, Kurosami is not a good couple. It reinforces the idea that two girls can't be friends without it ending in a lesbian relationship. They should have added another romantic interest in book 3 for one of them. I don't think Kurosami are a bad couple. I think that they work on paper, and for the most part, like, they actually did a pretty good job in like the follow-up comics to like establish them better. I do think that there's very little to like ground the couple in the show. But I think that it's kind of innocent and fine, because at the end of the day, like, all they did was just hold hands. Like, it wasn't like we're getting married now. But yeah, this idea that it reinforces the idea of two girls can't, like, we have so little, like, there's barely any lesbians anyway. Like, it almost seems, isn't it the opposite? Like, that that there's more shows that want to push women have to be in heterosexual relationships than they should be, you know, that they're trying to force lesbianism. Like, I don't really feel like that, especially with Legend of Korra. I feel like Legend of Korra, you know, they did have other female friends. Like, there was Opal and there was Jinora. Jinora and Korra have a really good friendship in the show, actually. So, and that's something shown in book 4. So I feel like, I don't know about that one. And then the last point of it, of adding another romantic relationship in season 3. I feel like season 3 added so many characters already. Like, so I think that it was smart to utilize what they were working with. I think maybe they could have done it a little bit better. But I think part of that is because of Nickelodeon. Part of that's because of the time that it was very much less accepted to show LGBT relationships and build-ups and stuff like that. So Help Sheezy says Avatar Last Airbender is not comparable to anime. Anime is a very broad thing, so like depends on what anime you're talking about. You know, Avatar is based off of anime, but it's not technically anime because it's not created in Japan. I think that's the qualifier for it being anime or not. Kind of agree, kind of disagree, you know. Sarah Borelli says Zutara should have been Endgame. No, I don't agree with no. All right, that was all of the ones for that post. Holy shit, there were a lot to go through. But if you guys like this video, like, please give it a like. Leave a subscription, send me more hot takes, and I'll react to them, and I'll judge you guys for once, because I know you guys are gonna come and judge me for my opinions all the time. But it's fun, we can have this dynamic. I'll talk to you guys all in my next video.